Second by defense attorney. All right, did he push you up against the sink during the fight? Yes. Now, at some point in time, one of the beer bottles was broken? Yes. Are you sure how the beer bottle got broken? No. Do you remember, strike that. How long did this confrontation or this fight take place in the bedroom and in the bathroom? How long did it go on? I can't remember. A while. 5 minutes? About 20. Do you think it was 20? Seemed like it, yes. Seemed like it was a long time? Yes. Now, you indicated that you received some cuts on your neck and on your chest area. Is that correct? Yes. Now, were those, how would you describe those cuts? Were those cuts deep cuts or more like scratches? More like scratches. Was there any blood on your neck area? Yes. So there was actually blood as opposed to redness from a cut? Well, it wasn't that much, just like it was a cat scratch. Like a cat scratch? Yes. Did you have any pictures taken of your injuries at all? No. You don't really remember how you actually received the cuts or the scratches on your body, do you? No. But you think they occurred sometime during the time you were fighting with your husband? Yes. Now, you talked with the police later that night. Is that correct? Did you talk with the police later that night? Yes. Do you remember how long after the fight stopped that you talked with the police? No. Well, was it a long time, like an hour, for example, or a short time, like a half hour, 20 minutes? I don't know. 10, 15 minutes, something like that. During the period of time that you were talking to the officer, you were still very upset. Is that correct? Yes. You were mad at Donald at that time. Is that right? Yes. And you had had a little bit to drink, at least that night? Yes. You didn't really want to tell the officer your part in the fight that night. Is that correct? Yes. You were going to give a one-sided story? Yes. All right. Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you. Miss Levine? And now, between September 4 and 27th, had you kind of broken up with your husband? Is that why you moved back to your parents' house? Yes. You are back together with him now, aren't you? Yes. Are you both going to counseling? Yes. And to some degree, you are both reconciled? No. Didn't you tell me outside a few minutes ago? Your Honor, at this time I am going to object. The district attorney is talking about conversation out there, and she has now become a witness. I want her to be cross-examined, and we can have another district attorney. I think it should be rephrased. Madam, aren't you and your husband trying to work things out? Yes. You want things to work out, right? All depends on what happens. Now, do you recall on September 27th telling Officer Guybeg that you hadn't seen your husband at all that day until the incident? I don't recall. You don't remember saying that? I was upset. I'm sorry. Can you answer, do you or do you not remember telling the officer that? No. You don't remember? No. Now, the argument you had with your husband that day, was that argument over the fact that he had been drinking and, in fact, was intoxicated? Yes, some of it. Do you recall telling Officer Guybeg that your husband attempted to hit you with the tequila bottle before you tried to hit him? Your Honor, at this time I am going to object unless the district attorney wants to make an offer of proof as to that statement. The offer of proof is that the officer will testify. That is what she told him. Is that contained in any of the reports at this time? Reading the police report I have, that's not the scenario in the police report. That is why I am asking the question. Yes, it's listed in the report. On that statement, I will allow the question. Do you recall telling Officer Guybeg that your husband attempted to hit you with a tequila bottle before you hit him? Everything happened so fast, I don't know. So you don't remember what you told the officer? No. Did you ever tell the officer you hit your husband first? No, he didn't ask me. And did you ever mention to the officer that you had been drinking? No, he didn't ask me. And did you ever mention to the officer that you had a beer bottle in your hand? No. And did you ever mention to the officer that you threw a beer bottle at your husband? I didn't throw a bottle. I just threw the liquid out of it. And did you mention to the officer you threw liquid at your husband? No. Now, you testified earlier that the fight took about 20 minutes. Is that right? Your Honor, I believe that misstates the evidence. There was a statement about a 20-minute period. It was unclear from her answer whether that referred to the entire fight or whether it referred to the bathroom and back bedroom area. How long did the fight last, the physical fight between you and your husband? I don't know. Can you give me a rough estimate? Your Honor, I object on vagueness. it appears there is a number of different altercations where it makes a difference. I am in doubt too as to which portion or whether you were referring to the entire incident. Please clarify it. This 20-minute estimate, what did that refer to? That is the bedroom to the bathroom. That is the period involving the beer bottle? Yes. And is it your estimate that the police arrived 10-15 minutes after that incident? Yes. Do you recall telling Officer Geibig that the incident with the bottle occurred at 8:30 in the evening? I don't know what time it was. So you don't recall what you told him? No. Thank you. I have no further questions. Mr. Funk, additional questions? If I may have a moment, Your Honor. No, I have no further questions at this time. Thank you. Mrs. Bueller, that completes the questions for now. May this witness be excused? No, Your Honor. If we could have her wait outside. Kindly remain outside and we will let you know whether you can go or not. Don't discuss anything about this case with any other person. People may call their next witness. We call Officer Geibig to the stand. Yes. Good morning, officer. Good morning. Will you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record? Jerry Geibig, G-E-I-B-E-G. Police officer with Milpitas Police Department. Were you so employed on September 27, 1987 at approximately 8:30 in the evening? Yes, I was. And did you receive a call of a domestic dispute? Yes, I did. Did you respond to that call? Yes, I did. And did you make contact with Mrs. Bueller at her house at 431 Carnegie Drive? Yes. That was after another officer, Officer Kraft, had made contact with her from a payphone that she used to call the police department to report the incident. Now, were you present with Officer Kraft when he received that call? No. I received the call to go to the residence. The victim was not there, Misty Bueller, and she indicated that she was at a phone booth at the corner of Park Victoria and Calaveras in Milpitas at this time. And did you go to the phone booth and make contact? No, I didn't. I stayed at the residence in case Mr. Bueller was there. And we tried to find him and talk to him, and I had Officer Kraft go and find and talk to Misty. Now, was Mrs. Bueller brought back to the residence? Yes, she was escorted by Officer Kraft. Did you talk to her back at the residence? Yes, I did. Now, did she make any statements to you regarding the use of a tequila bottle? Yes, she did. What was that statement? Referring back to my report, Your Honor, at this time I object to hearsay unless the question can be framed better. Well, Your Honor, the question with respect to the tequila bottle, she didn't have a specific recollection. I'm rephrasing it a little more closely. Did she make any statement about an attempt to hit her with the tequila bottle? Objection, Your Honor. Objection on the grounds of hearsay testimony regarding the tequila bottle. I take it this is offered as a prior inconsistency. That's correct. Then I will allow the question and the answer. Yes, she did. She indicated that to me. What did she state? She indicated he attempted to hit her with the tequila bottle. And did she tell you the chronology of the fight that happened? I believe it was at the incident, the altercation that was occurring between the two. And did she tell you at what point she attempted to hit her husband? No. She never did mention any type of hitting on her part until after he attempted to hit her with the tequila bottle when she did kick him or attempt to kick him. Did she mention to you whether or not she got hit on the side of the head when her husband was in possession of a beer bottle? Yes, she did. She said that he hit her on the right side of the head with the beer bottle. Did she tell you whether or not her husband was in possession of a broken portion of the beer bottle? Yes, she said with a jagged piece or the bottle neck. I guess it was the only large piece left from the beer bottle that he attempted to scratch her with, that jagged edge. Did she tell you what he said prior to his attempt to slashing her? Yes, he stated that, quote, "I'll cut your fucking throat." That is what she indicated to me. Did she tell you whether or not she was in fact cut by that same broken piece of beer bottle? Yes. She said she was cut on the neck and chest area, or throat and chest area. And did she point out to you where that jagged piece of beer bottle was? Yes. She pointed it out to me in the bathroom, lying on the bathroom floor. And did you recover that piece? Yes, I did. Is that piece contained in People's Exhibit number 1? Yes, it is. How do you know it's the same piece? Because I booked it into evidence I recovered it myself from the bathroom floor. Now, when you talked to Mrs. Bueller, did you note any odor of alcohol on her breath? No, I didn't. Did you note any signs that she was under the influence of alcohol? No. She was very emotional and upset at the time, but you didn't notice any symptoms that she was under the influence of alcohol? No. I'm not sure if I asked this. Correct me if I have. And did she mention to you when was the first time she saw her husband on that day? Yes. It was just prior to the incident. She indicated that she went to the residence that evening and found Donald inside intoxicated, and that is when the argument occurred. She said she had not seen him since the Thursday, which was the 24th of September. Did she tell you when the incident with the beer bottle occurred? Yes. This happened at 20:30 hours, which was what time? 8:30 in the evening on the 27th. What time did you arrive and have contact with Mrs. Bueller? At 20:40 hours, around that time that Officer Kraft made contact with her at the phone booth, and it was travel time from there, after her seeing the paramedics, to come down to Carnegie, which is roughly 3 blocks away. Thank you. Let me just double check. I have nothing further. Thank you. Mr. Funk, thank you. Officer Kraft, based on your testimony, Ms. Bueller had contact with somebody in the police department approximately 10 minutes after the incident occurred. Is that correct? Officer Kraft was outside, but he was the one that made the initial contact with her at the phone booth. So approximately 10 minutes after she indicated the incident occurred? Yes. Now, you filled out a police report in this matter. Is that correct? Yes, I did. In that police report, you have a portion of the report that indicates statements. Is that correct? Yes. And when you say statements, did you mean statements by Ms. Bueller? Yes. And the total length of the statements that you have in your police report is approximately 1 paragraph long. Is that correct? Yes. You also indicated when you were talking with Ms. Bueller, she was upset. Is that correct? Yes, she was upset. Very emotional? Yes. Now, you indicated that you smelled absolutely no odor of alcohol on Mrs. Bueller. I did not detect any alcohol on her breath. Well, other than alcohol on her breath, did you detect any alcohol about her body or her person? No, I didn't. Now, when you looked at what is in People's Exhibit number 1, did you find any blood on the edges of that glass? No, I didn't. Did you find any skin on the edges of the glass? No, I didn't. And did you take any fingerprints as to who might have had the bottle in their possession? No. Now, in your police report, you have an indication, C tape narrative. What does that mean? It means that the body of the report was taped on the tape recorder instead of written out on the back of the crime report. Do you still have that taped part of the police report? No, I don't. Did you have a tape recorder present when you interviewed Ms. Bueller? No, I didn't. When did you dictate your report in the tape recorder? The following day on the 28th. So you interviewed Mrs. Bueller approximately 8:40 p.m. September 27, and you dictated this on September 28, roughly about those time periods. Prior to doing the dictation into the tape, did you make any notes? I wrote out a script for what I was going to say on the tape. When did you write that script out? Just prior to putting it into the tape? Yes, prior to putting it into the tape. So sometime around 4 p.m. on September 28th, more likely that same night, working swing shift, I would have got off midnight, wrote it up that night and taped it the following day during the afternoon. Do you have a specific recollection whether you wrote it up that night or whether you wrote it right before you put it in the tape? That night, the following day? I don't like to have it hanging. So sometime after getting off swing shift around 12 midnight, you wrote this particular report? Yes. Do you still have that written document with you? No, I don't. I have no further questions. Thank you, Miss Levine. Nothing further of this witness. Officer Guybeg, you are excused. People may call their next witness. Thank you. We would like to call Officer Kraft briefly. Good morning, officer. Good morning. Will you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record? Officer Dennis Kraft, K-R-A-F-T. And who do you work for, sir? City of Milpitas Police Department. Were you so employed on September 27, 1987 at approximately 8:40 in the evening? Yes, I was. Did you respond to a call of a domestic dispute? I didn't respond to the dispute. I was advised to go to the area of the Safeway store to look for a gold Camaro or Firebird where the victim was supposed to be. Did you make contact with either the gold Firebird or the victim? Yes, I did. She flagged me over. Was this Misty Bueller? Yes, it was. Now, when you had contact with Mrs. Bueller, how did she appear in demeanor? She was sitting in the driver's seat of the vehicle. I could tell she was sobbing. She was upset. She had scratch marks. I don't know from what side to what side, but the chest area. She had shallow scratches or cut marks on her chest. Were there any marks on her neck? I don't recall. Did you review a written report by Officer Guybeck? Yes, I did. Did you contribute anything to that report? Not to the report, other than escorting Miss Bueller to the location. At what point did you review Officer Guybeck's report? This morning. Have you read it prior to today? No, I have not. Did you detect any odor of alcohol on Mrs. Bueller? I don't know if there was any odor of alcohol on her breath. She was not under the influence because I allowed her to drive back to the location. Thank you. I have nothing further. Mr. Funk. Officer, you didn't see blood from the head of Miss Bueller, did you, in the head area? I don't remember. If you had seen something like that, would you have indicated that in your police report or indicated that to any other officer that might write a report in this matter? If I had, the only thing I recall was blood coming from the scratch marks on her chest. $2.25 for voice for 5 minutes. Starts with question by plaintiff's attorney. Ready? He had 50%. That's right. You had 50%. Did you execute any type of special grant deed, joint tenants in common? I don't recall, but I know we both had 50% share of the property. I don't know how it was described in that document. So that share was pretty much so equal throughout the course of your ownership of that property, not through the entire ownership. When we started out, it started out that way, yes. So now we're in 1982. You buy the property from Laura Coffey, and who took care of the paperwork? Arlen would. Whatever we spent on materials, I'd give him the receipt. We're not talking about materials right now. Well, whatever. We're talking about, I'm sorry if I confused you, sir. We're talking about the paperwork as it relates to your purchase of the property. Who took care of that? I'm not sure if I had at that time or he had at that time because we were traveling back and forth. Most of the time we were in Simi and we would go to Cherry Valley on weekends and work and take a load of stuff as we went out. I'm not sure. Now, the paper was kept in the Simi Valley house, but I don't remember under whose control at that time. Who else lived in the Simi Valley house besides yourself and Arlen? We had several people. Let's talk in the time frame of 1982. That's where we are right now. 1982, who was living in the Simi Valley property aside from yourself and Arlen? I'm not sure. So many people came in and out. I'm not sure. There were times, too, when there was nobody living there. There was months that went by that it was just me and Arlen that lived there. Okay. But from your best recollection, the papers that related to the purchase of the Cherry Valley property, that is the property on Beaumont that we've been referring to throughout the course of this trial, was kept by Arlen. It was what? The papers were kept by Arlen. Were kept where? By Arlen. I'm not sure. I think they might have been put, but I'm not sure about that. Now, at that time that you made the purchase of that property, you had a $90,000 mortgage, you told us, and how much were your payments? I believe like $796, and we both contributed to that 50% each. 50% each? Yeah, we split that in half. The total was $796. And do you have any recollection when your first payment started on that property? It was either July or August of '82. I'm not sure, but right after we closed escrow in that time frame. Now you say that both you and Arlen paid 50% each of that payment of some $798, something like that. Let's round it off to $800. Okay, for simplicity's sake, let's say $800, right? Right. So you paid $400 a piece? Correct. How did you pay that money? He'd pay me in cash, and I'd write a check for that amount, or vice versa. I was usually taking care of the payments on that. So the payments from, let's say, August of '82 to maybe sometime when you decided that you wanted out of the property, and we haven't got to that point yet, were paid by you, probably by check? Uh-huh. Sir, you need to answer yes or no. I think the answer to the question that you normally paid to a Cherry Valley mortgage payment, usually by check? Yes. And it was your check? Yes. Okay. And do you recall that prior to us being here in trial, sir, you were notified by your attorney, Mr. Crafts, that you were to produce certain documents as it related to the property in Cherry Valley? Do you recall that? Uh-huh. I believe, I'm not sure. You were made aware of that? I believe so, yes. To this date, have you produced any records related to your payments of the Cherry Valley mortgage? Yes, I have those. You do have those? Yes, I do. Could you show those to me? Do you want me to get them? Your Honor, I have not seen those records. How much time would you need to look at them? How many do we have? I'd say 50 or 60 checks. You want the rent checks, the records to the rent, there's very few, but they would have to be sorted out. Why don't we take a 15-minute recess? You're excused, ladies and gentlemen, for 15 minutes. Same admonition. You may step down. Mr. Johnson, I think we left off at the point where you told us that you were responsible for making the payments on the Cherry Valley property from July 82 through sometime the first or second month into 84. You were splitting the payments with your brother, Arlen, and you made those payments through your checking account that you had at that time? Correct. Is that right? Where were you working at that time? I think I just started my business. Well, it was way before that. I was self-employed at that time. What do you do? I'm customer engineer. I install and repair computer and automated teller machines for banks. And so you install these ready teller type machines? Yes. You work in the banks actually? Yes, yes. Do you do any kind of subcontracting at all? Yes. I subcontracted to another company. The company's name is AidCo, and they hired me to do work for them. So what your business is, what aspect of the subcontracting, or at least I should say, what aspect of the business with respect to installing these machines do you do? I do the hookups and the repair. Buy materials for the business. Most of them are supplied. In fact, almost all of them are supplied through the company that I work for. Do you ever have occasion to buy materials for that business? Very seldom. They pretty well stock the van. If I do, I turn my receipts into them and they reimburse me for it. Okay. At some point in time, you go back and forth from your Simi Valley residence to the Cherry Valley residence. You move most of your vehicles there, is that right? Not at that time, no. There was no place to put them except out in the open, and I already have them under cover, so I didn't want to bring them out until we had some kind of shed or someplace. They would be under a cover.
Cell phones?
Yeah, cell phones off? Sure.
Double check.
Okay.
I am for defense, Mr. Nelson, N-E-L-S-O-N.
I am also for defense, Ms. Healy, H-E-A-L-Y.
I am the witness.
I'm for the plaintiff, Mr. Reisinger, R-E-I-S-I-N-G-E-R. And obviously we're in examination by Reisinger. Here we go. What documents have you looked at preparatory to your testifying here today?
I made a very brief, as the time and events happened, I made a very brief record of it.
All right.
I reviewed that.
You reviewed that?
Yes.
Did you review anything else?
No.
Any of the legal pleadings, correspondence?
No, I read the results of Mrs. Quinn's deposition in your office, but that was quite some time ago.
All right.
Because I don't have a copy. The lawyer has it.
From your reading of Mrs. Quinn's deposition, as best you can recall, was there anything in that deposition that you at this time feel perhaps should have been corrected, changed, or was any mistakes made?
I am going to object to that question as being far too broad. If you have some specifics in mind, then certainly those should be stated by way of questions. This is not a proper question, and I am instructing the witness not to answer it. It is much too broad, it is vague, it could bring in the kitchen sink.
Counsel, are you representing this witness?
At this point, yes. For the purposes of this deposition, yes. Ms. Healy will now be representing Mrs. Quinn.
And counsel, you understand that this deposition is being taken under the rules as provided in the California Code of Civil Procedure, among which are that the witness is deemed to have been instructed by the court reporter to have answered the question, and he can then elect to answer or not answer as he so chooses. But in the event he is not correct, the court will in all probability order him to answer, plus impose monetary sanctions required by my having to make an appearance.
Having heard a similar speech probably 500 times during the last 5 years, I still say that if you would like to rephrase your question so that it pinpoints something in particular so that it is answerable, then I will certainly not object to it.
Mr. Quinn, are there any specific changes, corrections, or amendments, alterations you feel or believe should be made with respect to your wife's deposition transcript?
The same objection, that was not his testimony. If you want to take Mrs. Quinn's deposition to ask her whether she wants to make changes in her...
Counsel, I am well aware of how to take a deposition.
I am stating the reasons why I am objecting to this. I think the form of the question is completely objectionable. It is far too broad and far too vague.
Do you recall the question, counsel?
My deposition is not being taken.
Mr. Quinn, did you review any photographs pursuant to your testimony here today?
Would you repeat that?
Yes. Have you looked at any pictures or photographs?
Yes.
When did you look at those photographs?
This morning,
What were they photographs of?
of the area where the accident happened.
That would be the sidewalk and the street.
Yes.
And where did you do that?
Where?
Yes.
There. You mean where did I?
Where did you review the photographs?
Oh, I reviewed the photographs this morning.
In this very office this morning?
I brought them with me and I hadn't looked at them till I got here.
How about the notation of the facts and events that you made? Was it here in this office that you looked at that this morning?
That's correct.
Do you have that statement with you?
The lawyer has it.
That has been prepared at my instruction.
Mr. Quinn, your wife's accident was October 18, 1978, is that right?
I think so.
When did you prepare the statement?
After I saw the lawyer, I made notations every time I took her to the doctor and paid a bill and that type of thing.
Did you make any other notations or statements at or about the time of the slip and fall, such as potential witnesses, descriptions of the scene, anything like that?
I don't quite understand your question.
Okay. What is contained in this statement that you made regarding your wife's slip and fall?
This was prepared for me, and this is privilege under the attorney-client privilege, and I am instructing him not to respond to that. I am sure you understand the attorney-client privilege.
Counsel, is there going to be any attempt at time of trial to introduce that statement?
I don't know. It is very difficult to foresee the future.
Mr. Quinn, who took these photographs that you looked at?
I did.
Were these taken at or near the time